Welcome back to another episode of the Experiential Travel Podcast, where we talk to hosts that have created unique experiences that allows their guests to disconnect in order to reconnect. Today's guest has done that phenomenally. He has a property up in Index, Washington, up because I am in California right now. And he has a property up in Index, Washington. He has 6 cabins, a container home, an A-frame. I mean, they are stunning. He is the true example of experiential travel podcasts. I haven't been there, but just from looking at the content, you go there and it's trees and wilderness and it is disconnecting. And I can only imagine the amazing experiences that his guests have. Welcome to the podcast, Nick Pietsch.
Hey, thanks, Lex. I appreciate being on.
Yeah, man. So let's start from the beginning. I want to hear your story. How did you get in this? I know that you have an undergrad in remind me.
Geology. Yeah, geology.
I like how I said that. I know you have an undergrad in, I don't know. Undergrad in geology. How does that happen? How does from where you're at now to from an undergrad in geology to where you are now? Explain me that process.
And I guess a lot of things happened over the course of my life to get me here now. I'm 45 years old now. I ended up studying geology at the University of Colorado, more or less to just get a degree under my belt. I did do a lot of crystal and rock hunting in Washington before college. So in high school, we would go up and camp and kick it and hunt for quartz crystals and stuff. And that's what led me to pick that major. Actually, I was a punter at University of Colorado, and the plan was to go to the NFL, but that didn't quite work out. So I had to pick a major, and luckily it was geology. Haven't used it much for my professional career, but I do love the science.
That's incredible. Punter turned geology undergrad turned into exceptional Airbnb host. I mean, what a progress of experiences. I played football in undergrad at University of San Diego. I was a corner and strong safety, but
Awesome.
didn't make it. I spent like a couple of months doing it, and I was like, yeah, gave up the dream real quick. So I understand now. Why Washington? Are you you went to Colorado for undergrad? What made you choose Washington and Index?
I grew up here in Northeast Seattle, where I currently live, about an hour away from the Pietsch Pit or the Index Cabins business.
And so let's go from the beginning. I start with every episode explaining that really the first major thing that you have to do is education, right? The first thing that you have to get under your belt is learning how to do this. Do you have any background in this? And then how did you learn from having that degree to where you are now? What was that learning process like for you?
Sure. So growing up in Seattle, a friend's parents had a property out on Hood Canal, which is one of those waterways out towards the Olympic Mountains. And we would go there multiple times during the summer. And it literally was the inspiration for Index Cabins. He had several small buildings where you could enjoy private spaces. But then as a group, you could get together for big meals down on the beach. And I think he actually has 6 units as well. And really, it was my buddy's dad who gave me a bunch of inspiration to do the cabins up in Index, where really originally we just wanted a place to enjoy ski season, do some summer river play, and then have a second place to go escape in nature out of the city. And really, we bought the first property in 2010, and it wasn't until late 2016 when I started short-term rental.
Oh, wow. So you bought it with the idea of just for your family, for a second home or vacation spot for you guys, and then
Right.
found the business side of it after.
For sure. The first parcels we purchased had 2 buildings on them. So we had our main cabin, and we called it the movie layer back then because we would retire there after dinner and watch a movie with the kids. But after refinancing that property, after fixing it up, we scraped together enough to get the end of the road lot. And then after years of fixing that old beat up cabin, that was on my first short-term rental.
It's amazing. Are they all contiguous acres?
No, we have 4 lots now.
And are they all touching each other, or are they
Yes,
on the
yes, yes.
nice? So bought the first one, realized, or just for you and your family, fix it up, refied out of it. Bought the second lot, fix it up, refied out of it. Then the third lot turned into that Airbnb.
Correct.
What was the first unit that you guys did for short-term rental?
Well, the first unit originally was called Tire Swing Cabin because my daughter and I made a tire swing and it started to rain. So instead of hanging it on a tree, we hung it in the living room of the old rundown cabin. And that tire swing, was up for 4 years as I slowly fixed it up. In fact, I left the swivel, bracket up in the ceiling. It's still there today. Now we call it O'Neill Cabin.
I love that. I love the little stories behind the
Yeah,
building
me too.
of homes. I mean, it's the little nuances that I think people really love, and the stories that when you swing by there and say hi to guests, you can kind of point up to that and say, "Yeah, me and my daughter used to swing on a tire swing from there." I think those little stories guests really connect with as well.
For sure. And over the years, some guests bring their own swings, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
I can tell because the dang furniture's moved out of the way, and you know what was going down.
yeah. Look, we're hospitality for kids and adults. That's hilarious. Now,
Yeah.
why this location? I know that you grew up in around that area. Was it always like an idea? Hey, we want to have some summertime activities and some skiing activities. Let's choose this location for that. Why specifically Index?
Man, we really wanted a ski cabin, so this spot was geographically perfect between our Northeast Seattle house and Stevens Pass. So that's what we ended up picking. I almost prior to this purchase, I was living in Las Vegas selling surgical supplies for Johnson and Johnson, and I almost bought a little cabin up in Bryan Head to do a similar thing, like ski and escape the heat of Vegas. And then when I ended up moving back to Seattle, I guess those seeds were still in the works. And then my current wife I ended up getting the spot in Index.
It's amazing.
And
Go ahead.
she's my only wife. I just I just moved back from Vegas, and I was almost going to buy that cabin with an ex-girlfriend, but then when I moved back to Seattle, I was dating my now current wife.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I wasn't going to ask, but I'm glad you clarified that. Uh, so you bought the 4 parcels. Are all 6 units separated on all 4 parcels? Do you have specific units on each parcel? Tell me a little bit about the layout of Index cabins.
Sure. So the the first 2 parcels we purchased had those 2 first buildings on them. Really a bigger, like a 900 square foot cabin we call Amos, and then a little guest house. It's like 270 square feet we call Persis. So there was an additional lot that was not it was vacant, and so that large strip now houses the sea container cabin. And then there's like a little square shaped lot that has O'Neill and Playbaby as the accessory dwelling on that lot.
I think the biggest and the hardest part of all of this is, I know for me at least, was getting utilities. The first lot had
Mhm.
the cabins on it already, so I'm guessing that was already tied to water, power, and sewer.
Yeah.
And then the second one as well. When you bought that third lot that has the sea container on it, is how did you get utilities to sea container?
Well, they're very close to each other. So we had, and we're on grid. So we can just you could just get another power pole, you know, for $6,000, brought to you from the Snohomish County PUD. So really, you know, that was our utility, and we have two wells on the property, so we were able to tee off of another well, a water line,
Yeah.
and
What about septic? Did you have to do a brand new septic for sea container, or were you able to
oh,
tie into the other one?
we have three septic systems on the property already, so
Oh, that's amazing.
um, that's what we ended up using those.
So you found basically the perfect lot. I mean, it sounds like this lot had everything. Did you know that you wanted to expand the way that you've expanded when you bought the first one, or was it kind of just like walk me through the mindset of if it's changed or if you had the original mindset of I'm buying this, I'm going to put 6 units on it, I'm going to cash flow phenomenally through short
Mhm.
term rentals, or uh, were you like, oh, let's do one, see how it goes? Does great, let's do another one. Walk me through kind of that mindset process.
So after we fixed up the first two, Amos and Persis, we refinanced and scraped together about 80 grand to get the lot that O'Neill sits on. So it took me about 4 years of doing most of the work myself to get O'Neill guest ready. And then finally it was ready. And like, I was expecting friends to use it every weekend and, you know, a bit, that's how it would be. But it was just kind of going empty. And so when it was empty, I thought about the short-term rental option. So then that's when that revenue stream started, and it started slowly, like where I was doing the cleanings every, it would maybe book a couple weekends a month. I would go up during the week, clean it, and then I slowly started kind of getting some revenue. And then as that was successful, and we were sometimes not up there for like a month, I just I thought, well, I'm going to just open the other two, the first two that we had. And as I opened those two for short term rental, I got enough revenue to do this shed conversion project called Clay Baby. And then once Clay Baby was done, it took me a little while to get some capital together to do the Treehouse project. And that's when we finished that in 2021. And then I already had the capital, and then the treehouse did so great in year one that I did the sea container project pretty much right after we finished in March of this year for that.
You were able to basically roll over the money that you made from short term rentals on your expansion. Is that the plan moving forward, or are you kind of 6 units, I'm done?
Um, no, we have a lot in the back that I'm planning to develop as we speak.
Nice little insight on what that is.
It, Oh, it's just going to be the dopeness, it's going to be unique and, all the things on Instagram that everybody likes. And it should hopefully be another 90% occupied property.
I love that. That's amazing. So, uh, let's talk a little bit about your structures and why you chose the structures that you chose. Um,
Yeah,
Obviously, you had the pre-existing structures that were already there, and you were able to just uh, fix them up and rent those out. You had that shed conversion, which is awesome, by the way. It looks great. And
thanks.
but I really want to know kind of what went into the A-frame and what went into the C container.
Sure. So the treehouse was an amazing project in that, I got help from Nelson Treehouse basically in a consulting way, but I'm not sure how they're structured because they basically gave me a ton of this free consulting just so I would buy the hardware. And I'm not sure they thought I was going to do it. because, you know, I guess it takes a lot of guts to do that, that big of a project. And um, it really wasn't until we finished a big remodel on our Seattle house, and I was able to get a big HELOC to fund the treehouse project. So it ended up being relatively not too expensive. I've shared before that the project was about 200 grand all in, but I don't know. There were a lot of iterations. You know, I thought about Ewok Village kind of thing. And I'll give credit to my social media gals. For a few years, I hired this Abode Society company. It's just kind of a couple women that do social media on the sides. But I learned a lot from them. And she was just like, "You better make that thing an A-frame." And I, I, I then, agreed. You know, there's such amazing, beautiful pictures of A-frames on Instagram that then the sketch, in I think August of 2020 was an A-frame, very similar to what it came to be. We ended up doing it 13 feet off the ground. I drilled the holes in the trees with a couple kind of neighbor friends and with the encouragement of the Nelson Treehouse folks. And I hired a framer and we were off to the races. Like, dude framed it up in like 3 weeks
Oh my
with
goodness.
the, like, 32 feet at the apex. And it was awesome.
You got the idea to do an A-frame from the social media gal, and that's what
I
kind of
mean,
sparked the idea.
yeah, I mean, I was brainstorming, of course, but like she dropped the reminder, like, dude, the A-frames are, you know, probably the most popular architectural structure, at least in the cabin world. I don't know. We have we have a pretty well-known A-frame up the road in Skycomish called the Tie House, and he has three of these A-frames, and they're nothing too fancy, but they're just that iconic
Mm-hmm.
A-frame structure, and so you know after brainstorming and considering things and kind of measuring and seeing what the space looked like between the trees that we had available, the A-frame would just fit right in.
Can you talk to me about the moment that it switched from this is a personal vacation rental for me and my family and my kids to I'm turning this into a business and we're going to be making money from it?
Oh, well, late in 2016, I listed Tire Swing on VRBO to start. And then I think about 6 months later, I added Airbnb. And then, as at that point, I was still in in medical device sales. So I had a great job at that time. So did my wife. She's a dentist. So, like, the cabins was a hobby. I would go up and fish and, smoke weed and hang out and drink with friends and family. I mean, it was just a fun place to be. So I don't know that it really might have converted. In 2017, I quit my corporate job. So probably right around there, 17, 18, when I went for the shed conversion, that's when it started becoming like, okay, then we're going to have 4 units. And then the treehouse, completely changed the business at the cabins. I mean, the revenues are so good. It's like, no one would have to work full time with that on the property. So,
It's incredible. It's like the definition of land hacking. I think that is I've talked to a lot of different entrepreneurs that have done very similar things. And I think being able to capitalize off of land that you have, build a structure that is unique, and offer an experience to guests is an incredible way to quit your corporate job and make the same amount of money, if not a lot more money, doing experiential travel and offering that experience than a 9 to 5, a typical 9 to 5. And so I love hearing the story of people being able to quit their 9 to 5 and or quit their corporate job and follow this kind of unguided pathway that people are going into. Do you feel like you're more
Yeah.
fulfilled now doing this than you were in your previous job? And then talk to me about what that means for you and what that means for your family.
Yeah, I think, I mean, for me, I feel like it's pretty unique because I love to fix stuff and I love to be up on property and I like reading the reviews and then I like strategically like addressing them basically every week, like whatever's missing, whatever's broken to some degree. I mean, I certainly have certain things, guidelines that I won't change because that's part of the experience or the design. Like for instance, the steam shower in the sea container, it has no shade. There's no like curtain, but because it's a steam shower, if you steam it up for 5 minutes, no one can see inside. So enjoy the steam shower, but don't gripe to me about there not being a curtain because that's going to look terrible. So anyway, that's one thing I don't change. I did it at moments. I did it. I really did love this medical device sales career. I did that for 15 years. It was a great job. It afforded me travel. Um, I got to stay in hotels like all over the country that I think I still pull from, getting cool ideas from like the Hudson Hotel in Manhattan or the Gansevoort or, these resorts that we would stay at during meetings and whatnot, or sales awards trips we'd go on like Costa Rica, whatever. And so I would never trade that, but I certainly have fulfillment, fixing stuff at the index cabins and then sharing the property with folks to enjoy an escape, like you mentioned. So,
You mentioned something in there that I resonate with more than I would like to admit, and it's not giving up your vision in what you create,
yeah.
accommodating towards guests, but knowing when to push back, knowing when to say, okay, this is the experience I want to create. I've talked to a woman named Donna. She has a place called Holly Farms, and she doesn't offer power. And she said, I'm never going to offer power because the experience that I had when I first came here and stayed in a tent with no power was so magical that I want to offer the same exact experience. And guests will come and they'll say, "Oh, this would be great if we just had power." And she's like, "Not a chance." And so she was able to stick to her guns and is continually sticking to her guns. Is there other things besides the curtain in the shower, the sea container, that you have just said, no, with this I'm sticking to it. With this I
Mm-mm.
have a vision and I'm sticking to this vision no matter how many guests say that it can be improved. Are there other examples
Yeah.
like that?
Yeah. Well, thanks, Lex. I haven't really talked about this that much, but it's coming out here. I think I really like am comfortable, especially out in Index where there's distance between, different buildings and structures. Like, I think you could relate being, showering in a room with 85 guys in college football. You get pretty comfortable, just walking around and doing your business. So again, like the treehouse, the entire back of the treehouse is glass, and I made a lot of effort to get these gigantic windows like custom made. And similarly, up in the king bed loft, there's huge triangular windows that were very hard to get made. And people complain about there not being a curtain there. And it's just like, dude, nobody cares. Nobody's looking at you. Like there's so much distance and you're out in the middle of the forest, tucked in the mountains by the river. Just enjoy yourself. So I think that's my main thing that I just gloss over. But all the other stuff I try to fix and like get improved.
How is that going back and forth? 'Cause so let me first take a step back, and we do the same thing. Our tiny home, one of our tiny homes, we have a loft, and in the loft we don't put a curtain because I think that waking up with the sunrise, especially where we're at, is so incredible. I know people like to sleep in, but I think that there's something super special about going to sleep with the sun and rising with the sun. And
Hmm.
it faces east, and so we don't put a curtain. Now the window's not massive, so I mean you could kind of hide
Yeah.
and not be hit by the sun. But people just like you say the same thing. They say this would be so much better if you put a curtain or a shade, and
No.
that's something that we stick to our guns. So I do think, how do you balance with that? How do you balance with sticking to your guns and fixing things that guests come with? Is it a case by case situation, or do you have like a couple things in mind that you're like, this is how this vision is, I'm not switching? Explain to me kind of that thought process when you get customer
Well,
reviews.
it is kind of tricky. I mean, often, it's just left in the private comments after the fact. So, in that regard, I'm cool with that, and I love the feedback, and I cherish it to try to improve things. Man, when you have a guest that's just right out the gate, like they check in and they're complaining about stuff, and they're like, "Where's the charging cord for this remote? Where's the whatever, yada yada yada, the toilet paper holder is a little bit crooked." I just want to jump off a cliff myself, um, because it's just so obnoxious. But I try, and I have to be, as a good host, to be accommodating and try to, like, have the, maybe if I can't do it, have the cleaners, deliver them a charging cord or battery or whatever. But man, it's remote. I mean, it's a good hour drive from Seattle. You're in the middle of the dang woods, and so I don't know. I think 2% of guests are just more difficult than than is comfortable, and that's just kind of what I have to put up with. I think I guess to receive the checks. That's what
I,
I'm willing
I
to put up with.
I'm glad that we're not the only ones. I'll just say that. I'm glad
Yeah,
that another person has experienced what we experienced, because we have the same thing. We have some guests that are like, I wish there was no power, no running water, no nothing. Like we're used to camping. We want bare minimums. We have other guests that are like, they check it and say, uh, actually all of our units are on wheels, and they'll say, well, this is a little unlevel. Like, could you come out and level the trailer? And we're like, we're in the middle of the desert, an
yeah,
hour away
yeah,
from Flagstaff, which is the closest city, and
yeah,
I have to bring in a maintenance guy from Flagstaff to come level this thing. And so we get tons of back and back and forth with guests that are just like that. There's some are
yeah,
amazing, and some are just. I actually have found empathy in the people that are like that, because I just imagine how their life is 24/7. And if
yeah.
that's how they
They're
live
just
their
not.
life 24/7, it must be miserable. It must be a miserable existence.
Yeah, they can't empathize with the hosts. Like they can't recognize how hard it is to keep a remote property going, and um, but it is what it is. I mean, it has driven me to consider outsourcing management, so that
Mm.
I didn't have to do those things. And this time of year is actually coming. Like November is probably the stormiest year, and it's the hardest month of the year up in index. So I'm kind of like bracing for, power outages and just really tough situations where guests aren't comfortable and they end up leaving, demanding refunds and all that kind of thing. So
Yeah, we run into the same thing. So you're not the only one. Now, from a tactical standpoint, that we can uh, kind of let the other entrepreneurs, the other hosts, uh, play with here is: do you handle that communication if a guest is complaining? How do you do it? Do you do it through the Airbnb app, through the booking uh, platforms? Do you call them?
mm,
Do you text them? What's the best way that you handle your communication with a guest that might want the toilet paper rack to be a little bit more straight?
yeah. Well, I try to keep it all like in the platform, whether it's Airbnb, VRBO, so that it's on record. But often it'll go to text, which I'm fine with. I don't really care. It's so rare that I end up being in some sort of conflict just because I try to accommodate, and most of the time guests are cool. So it's pretty straightforward. I think sometimes it's tricky because it pulls me away from family you know at any time. But I don't mind it. I think it's valuable to be closer to your guests than not. And I think in the end, I you know will beat another host who doesn't who pays for some company to do auto like chatbot responses and stuff like that.
Absolutely. We do the same thing. All of our communication that is via text is done through the platform, but we like to call. I mean, I'm the one who handles all guest communication, and just because I like it. And
Yeah.
uh, we uh, we have found, or I have found, that if I call people and they hear my voice, a lot of the people that might have an issue, those issues become a lot less drastic when you're talking to someone over the phone than via text.
Mm,
I it's also a flaw of mine that when I read a text and someone is like asking something, I feel like they're yelling at me or like they're complaining at me. I need to work on
yeah.
that. But we found that just for hosts that might be listening, I found that balance works really, really well. The combination of calling and then texting through the app, just as you said, so it's all documented as well.
Yeah. And I'll add that if there is an issue that's a repeated thing, like the shower window, the steam shower window, I'll put in, I think it's like additional things to know kind of section. And I'll just put like, this was designed this way. Like you need to steam up the window. If you're uncomfortable, please wear your swimsuit
Mm,
in the shower.
mm-hmm.
And that seemed to really, you can do that with any issue. If it's a repeat thing, then you can point to that, be like, well, I pointed that out in the additional comments. I'm not sure what to tell you.
We
Get
do,
lost.
we we do this literally the exact same thing, and I think this is a really important note for hosts as well. If you have a repeat thing like the steam shower, for example, our roads not maintained by the county, we have to maintain them ourselves. Uh, I'm currently in the process of saving enough money in order to do that. It's going to cost me an absolute fortune to fix these roads. So
To
for my
pave it?
no, even to gravel it is gonna. I mean,
Uh,
we're solid two, like 4 minute drive off of the highway onto dirt
uh,
roads, and because of winter, it's formed divots. So I mean,
yeah,
you have divots like this big,
yeah,
and
yeah,
any medium sized car, SUV, totally fine, right? It's the people that bring their Corvette or Ferrari into the property that they're like, "You destroyed my car." and
yeah,
and so we kept on getting that message, and so we put that in our additional notes. We do a 5-day message before they arrive. We put that in there, and we put in their check-in thing, so that upon arriving to the property, if they complain about that, we say like, look, here's the 4 times that we mentioned these roads. Please,
yeah,
please, like, we did everything we could to fair warn you. So I think that's important as well, and I really like that tidbit of, if you have something that has come up multiple times and is part of the design or part of the property, as long as you just communicate about it before, typically you're on the clean route there.
yeah.
Talk to me about. I know that you use a lot of sustainable products. I was watching one of your guys' video, and they were explaining that your countertops in your kitchen are sustainable and recycled materials. Uh, some of your flooring is as well. Walk me through kind of the reason why you went down that route, and then what part of your homes are sustainable materials.
So what we did with the sea containers, one of the themes and the whole idea of that project was that the containers were used. I purposefully, chose containers that were still watertight, rated, but had gone to and from the seas, can imagine like what they held inside, and they kind of went back and forth. And so I love talking about like what possibly was shipped in them with my kids and stuff like that. But, there's big dents in them that are visible. So I just love the idea of that. I just feel like it's kind of romantic. And, as the project evolved, I ended up choosing like cork flooring, which is highly sustainable. Every 9 years, I think you can scrape a cork tree and get more product to make flooring or whatever. I used a cool product called Paper Stone, which is they use a proprietary plastic, proprietary like resins that create the countertop, and it's really beautiful. You can actually sand it out and then just use like a wax. That a wax finish leaves a really nice kind of matte finish. So I think, what else did we use that was, I don't know, we use natural products like there's a lava theme in the sea container cabin. So like natural basalt, that's mined from these huge fields of endless amounts of lava rock. I think I'm forgetting one more thing, but that's about it for the. Oh, and I'm actually right now working with a company called Solterra to put in some solar and some battery solutions to combat our power outage issues. So we'll have solar panels pulling and storing energy in these batteries that will like keep the well on or something while so the guests don't leave.
I love it. Yeah, we are completely off grid, so solar panels and batteries are definitely the only way we have power. And
It's so cool.
4 days of snow or 4 days of rain, and we are messaging guests with
Oh, really?
with an explanation of why they're going to show up to our property with no power. Um,
Oh my gosh, because the batteries can't hold enough.
well, yeah, if there's no sun for 4 days, batteries can't recharge,
Wow.
and so we're completely like raw dirt. And so we haul in
Yeah.
all of our water. There's no well. We haul in. We are doing septic units. We have composting toilets right now, but we're doing septic units, and we have solar panels for everything. So it's
Wow.
definitely learning that for me was the hardest part, but then trying to communicate how much work it goes into providing the utilities that people love and cherish. And then
Yeah.
when those don't work, explaining to them how hard and how much money we actually put into this property for it to not work. You get a bunch of city people that flip a light switch and the light doesn't turn on immediately and they're like, what's going on? And so
Yeah.
we have to explain to them like, look, it's not easy providing all of the utilities that everyone loves in a normal home. You flush
Yeah.
a toilet and it normally works. Like the idea of composting toilets is so foreign to a bunch of people that learning curve for our guests is definitely something that we've struggled with, but then had to learn how to tread the line with.
That's fascinating. I think, and hopefully the technologies are continually getting better. I know the solar, you know, now the government's paying for 30% of all new projects through that Inflation Reduction Act. And I never knew that before talking to the sales guy, but it's basically like a 30% tax rebate on any solar project, and it can include batteries too. So
It's incredible.
hopefully people are starting to do it.
Yeah, we have all EcoFlow stuff, and I really, really like their line of product because I can control everything from my phone. And so I
Oh,
can
nice.
see how much power is being consumed, how long the power will last based on the current consumption of power, how much solar is coming in. And so I can like say, hey, to the guests, like, hey, you guys used a blow dryer, or there was like a spike in power. You guys have 11% left. I would only charge phones and try to keep usage to a minimal.
Wow,
That's
that's cool. I can't wait to visit.
Yeah, man. It's so much fun. So I call them the dream team. I honestly think that they're the lifeblood behind the organization. They're what keeps the property going. They're the thing that, uh, as a host, I appreciate the most. It's your handyman, it's your cleaners, it's the people. Maybe your on-site manager if you have one. Whether you
Mhm.
use a separate one or you use your cleaners as an on-site manager, and really they're so crucial to the organization and to the business. Walk me through a little bit about your dream team, who's on your dream team, and how did you find them?
Sure. The valley's pretty small. The Skykomish Valley is pretty small, community. I first started with a company called Treeline. They did a bunch of cabins, and they were friends, really. As they got bigger, they kind of wanted to manage all the properties that they cleaned. So, that's the difference, right? There's the cleaners, and then managing is a whole separate part of it. So this was 2 years ago, I left them and got my own freelance cleaner woman, and she was terrific. This last summer, there's just so many turns that I saw it in her eyes, like it just like got burnt out. And I was trying to help her like by hiring someone new just to do like 2 days a week. And for whatever reason, she decided to bail. So now I have a new crew where it's more than just one person. It's like a manager woman, and then her husband's a general contractor, which is helpful. He does some of the hot tub maintenance and stuff, and then she has a whole team of employees, which I'm really looking forward to. Kind of a little bit more like professional, like restocking salt and pepper, oil, being a little bit more like, fresh and on it. So that just happened like 2 days ago. So I'm excited.
That's amazing. Congrats, man. We do the same
Yeah,
thing.
it's stressful getting those changes to take place. It took 3 or 4 weeks to get all the changes and set up and order new linens and all that stuff. So
Yeah, we have the same thing. We have two sets of cleaners. One does 3 days, one does 4 days, but we have 7 units. So at a time, we can have 6 units that one cleaner is having to clean, and it stacks up on them. We knew
yeah,
when we hit 2 units, we knew we needed to hire. Sorry, when we hit 3 units, right after the second unit, we knew we needed to bring in a second cleaner because
yeah,
having the same cleaner do 3 units every single day, and we're next to the Grand Canyon, so having that tourism, consistent tourism, and we operate at like a 98% occupancy, so having those consistent turnovers with one cleaner is definitely very hard on one person.
yeah,
So I think well, I can't stress that enough. If having multiple or a team, and our cleaner,
yeah,
her husband is our general contractor as well. So we're so
yeah,
many similar attributes there. And I found
yeah.
that. Go ahead.
That's a good combo.
Hmm.
Yeah.
If you can find a husband and wife that either one of them
Mm,
does the contracting, one of them does the cleaning, that's
yeah.
keep it in the family. We like that.
Yeah. And then I'm up every Friday. My wife's off work on Fridays, so like I have more freedom with less kid duty stuff. So I go up every Friday, and all week I'm like collecting stuff, setting up projects that I'm going to do on Friday. I try to cram it all in, and then often if I'm not in like a big build, I'll still have time to go for like a trail run or or do something, swim. Man, the river swimming up here in the summer is amazing. Like, you got to come check it out,
Oh,
dude.
I'd love to, man. That sounds so much fun. Are you full time Index?
Uh, you mean, is that my full-time job?
Yeah,
Yeah.
nice. That's awesome. And then is your wife is still a practicing dentist?
Yeah, yeah. So I do help her with some of the dental practice stuff. But then when I left my corporate job, I was tasked with a lot of kid stuff, help with her dental practice. And then part of our workload balance is I do a shitload of dishes and laundry and house stuff.
I
But
love that.
it leaves me plenty of time to do index. And man, there's a spot like it's like 20 feet deep, like emerald green river water diving. Like, you gotta come.
Oh, I'm there. You let me know what day, and I'm there. I'm booking a flight immediately. Um, okay, so booking channel. You said that you're on an Airbnb on VRBO. Do you have your own booking channel? And walk me
Yeah.
through the percentages of how percentage of bookings from Airbnb, VRBO, and then your direct.
Yeah. So I use when the sea containers finished, I went through some periods of time just revamping my online footprint. So I use Guesty for hosts now. So Guesty for hosts has Airbnb, VRBO, and my direct channel underneath them, and they all roll up to Guesty for hosts. And I'm having my IT guy add booking.com, like, should be done any day now. But in terms of percentage, man, that's a good question. I guess I could probably run a report. Airbnb still gets a lot, um, but I'm just glancing at the calendar now, and like, there's a bunch of direct bookings just in November, maybe two VRBOs. So I don't know, probably 50% Airbnb, 30% direct, maybe. But the direct didn't come until the treehouse happened, and
Mm-hmm.
the treehouse got so much exposure that I had an excuse to make a direct booking site.
Are you on? Are you running ads for direct booking, or are you just all
No,
organic social?
it's all organic, and I haven't paid for any marketing yet. I do a lot of influencer trades, but I don't pay.
Nice. That's incredible. Um, and then booking channels. So we kind of break down your booking channel and then your automations as well. We use Guesty for hosts as well. I really like Guesty for hosts. I found it hard. I didn't like their direct booking site. Do you use their direct booking site or do you use a third party direct booking site?
On on indexcabins.com, you when you click booking or book a cabin, it takes you to the Guesty website.
It takes you to their booking
Yeah,
platform. Nice.
yeah, with just like the six cabins. And
Nice. And you've had just a solid time with their direct booking site. We struggled with it. We couldn't connect. We switched to Logify for one of our units because we couldn't connect a Facebook pixel to it. So if we wanted to run any
oh,
type of ads, we can't connect a Facebook pixel to the Guesty site. We could only do it to the.
oh, I've been okay. It I like it. I was using Hospitable, and I switched from Hospitable because they couldn't take a payment, and I was having to like send. It was awful. I had to send PayPal invoices to folks, and I 9 out of 10 times they would not even book. So this is much better. It goes through. I use Stripe as a payment
Hmm.
method, and yeah, I haven't tried to do any advertising, but it seems really nice. I like the interface on the calendar. I can quickly add a reservation if I want with someone's email, and yeah, I guess that's
Is
I
do
like it.
you communicate? with your cleaners and your guests through Guesty? Do you use the automation tools? Like talk to me a little bit about your automations and if you use any.
I think I will start that with my new group, but I've not seen anything. It literally they just took over full time 2 days ago. So, but that would be really nice and efficient. I love efficiency um, and sense of urgency. Those are like
Hmm.
kind of my strength finders, I guess. I don't know.
I
I
love
hate
that.
duplicating work.
I'm the exact same way. If I can work smarter and not harder, I'm all for
Yeah,
it. I will pay a lot more money if things are streamlined and things are just like done through automation.
for
So
sure.
all of our cleaning messages are automated. So we don't ever talk to cleaners. Rarely. If they ever have an issue or need to be restocked, they let us know. If someone damages something, we let them know. And then we have 5 automated messages that go to our guests throughout their reservation. That's all automated that we don't do as well. So I'm big fans
Yeah,
of
similar.
automations.
Yeah, I need to get more about messaging the cleaning crew, but all my guest messages go automated.
What when do you message your guests and what does that look like for your automations for your guests?
So you make a booking, you get like a welcome message, and then you get a link to my Airbnb guidebook, and then 3 days prior you get access info, and then the morning after you get a hope you settled in nicely message. Let me know if you need anything, and then the morning of you get a checkout instructions and thank you. Do the happy dance on your way out.
Do you what is the typical length of reservation that comes and stays with you guys?
It's usually 2 nights, I think.
2 nights.
2.9, I think it says on Airbnb.
Nice. So it's typically longer stays, typically weekends slash.
So,
Go ahead.
yeah, it's usually 2 nights. I do single nights for the sea container and the treehouse just because it's so expensive for folks to experience those two, and so I do that for single night.
What's your typical nightly rate and occupancy rate for those 2 units?
The treehouse is right around 500, and then the sea containers is 400.
Nice. And then occupancy rate?
Occupancy for treehouse has been above 90%
It's incredible.
basically since we finished it. Yeah, I love that project. Um, and then sea containers is lower than that, like 70 or 75. We're in our slowest period right now, so it's a little bit skewed, I think. But man, summer was just banging. Like all of them were in the 90s
We love that.
for 4 or 5 months straight, and then
We love a
it's really
500 per
slowed down.
$500 nightly rate with a 90% occupancy.
It's a good one,
That's
man.
pretty incredible returns, man.
Treehouse did 165K year one.
Let's go. And have you been pretty consistent all the years?
Well, it's just finished August of 21, so we're kind of 2 years.
2 years into it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, man. So I wrap every episode with uh, my favorite part, and I call it experiential travel again because I think what we're offering is an ability for guests to disconnect in order to reconnect with their loved ones, create lifelong memories with their loved ones, family, friends, and just get away from the craziness. I mean, our world seems like every single day it gets just a touch crazier, and I think that our our combat to that is allowing people to get in nature, get off grid, or even on grid but in nature, and
Hmm.
reconnect with their loved ones and reconnect with Mother Earth. Do you have a story that is kind of your why, that basically a guest story that has come in and you're like, this is why I'm doing what I am doing?
Oh man. I guess the property to me it is so important, and I'm filled with so much gratitude to have found the place Our daughter was 6 months old when we bought the first property. And the other day I was looking through old photos and whatnot and just seeing her little munchkin self, sitting in Amos' cabin before we had done much work at all on it. And then just to see the smiling, faces of my friends and family at the property over the years. My wife bought one of those digital frames that sits in our kitchen. So when I'm doing all those dishes that, I've agreed to do, I look over and I just see through the years, all the smiling faces in front of a cabin or the other, or on the river, or up in the hiking trails. I mean, that to me is what it's all about, and what all the Fridays of work, all the hours and hours of effort to build the place to be somewhere safe and where friends and family can go to visit privately, but then also come together as a group. The 4th of July, we had 22 folks there from our families for our 4th of July barbecue. And so to me, that's what I've been working towards from the beginning. And that's what it's all about. I'll just keep doing it.
You are an inspiration to all of us. I'll tell you that.
Thanks,
I
man.
saw
You
your
too.
I saw your treehouse, and I was like, I'm building an A-frame and on my land. I have to do it.
Yeah,
uh,
they're gorgeous.
Now we don't have trees, and so we're in the desert. So it might just have to be on normal foundation. But I
Yeah.
still loved your design, and I love everything you're doing. And thanks, dude. Seriously, thank you so much for jumping on this
Yeah, really,
podcast.
really nice chatting. Nice chatting with you.
And I love, love, love what you're doing. Where can people find you?
So indexcabins.com has everything. We're at Index Cabins for all the socials, Instagram, TikTok. But yeah, feel free to reach out. My email contact information is there. I love to work with folks if they had ideas of developing their own little cabin village. I do some consulting, and would be happy to chat with anybody.
We not to do a quick little pitch here, but we have tiny home manufacturing turnkey short-term rental tiny home manufacturing company, and basically we work with investors and people that own land to put the stargazing home unit on and start renting it out. So we have a bunch of
Nice.
investors that don't have land but are looking for people to partner with for land that will finance the home, and they'll take on the risk of the financial aspect, and then are just looking for people with land. So maybe that's an opportunity down in the future. Um,
Yeah, for sure.
but dude, again, thank you so much for being on the podcast, and I'm looking forward to fishing with you or doing some swimming. And
That's the business, Lex. Thank you so much, man. It's really nice chatting with you, and good luck with all your podcasts.
thanks, brother.